Welcome back. We've seen the voluntary standards, flexible, useful, but not binding. Now we enter Part C, the EU regulatory framework, where the European Union has done something no one else has attempted at this scale. It has taken sustainability disclosure and made it law, detailed, mandatory, and enforced. This is the most ambitious sustainable finance rulebook in the world, and it's genuinely complex, so we'll take it in two videos. In this one, the corporate reporting pillars, the CSRD, the ESRS, and the EU Taxonomy. Let's begin. If you find these lectures worthwhile, subscribing is a nice way to keep them coming to your feed. Before the details, here's the big picture. The architecture in 4 interlocking pillars. First, the CSRD with its ESRS standards. This governs how companies disclose. Second, the EU Taxonomy. This defines what actually counts as a sustainable activity. Third, the SFDR. This governs disclosure in the financial sector by asset managers and investors. And fourth, the CSRD. This imposes a duty to act, not just to disclose. Notice how they fit together. The taxonomy provides the common language. The CSRD makes companies report against it. The SFDR pushes that information out to the financial markets. And the CSRD adds the obligation to actually manage the harms. Together, they form a single connected system. In this video, we cover the first 2 pillars. The next video covers the other 2. To feel the scale of what's happening, look at this chart from Thierry Roncalli's lecture notes. It plots the cumulative number of ESG regulations worldwide over time. And the line doesn't just rise, it accelerates, reaching around 868 separate regulations by 2021. Think about what that curve means for anyone running a company or a fund. A steadily thickening thicket of rules to comply with, growing faster every year. Sustainable finance has, in barely 2 decades, gone from a fringe concern to one of the most heavily regulated areas of the economy. The days of purely voluntary disclosure are over, and here's the same wave, broken down by region. And it tells you immediately who's driving it. Europe is far out in front, with around 525 regulations, followed some distance back by Asia at around 149. Europe is not just participating in this trend, it is setting the pace, writing the rules the rest of the world often ends up reacting to. This is sometimes called the Brussels effect. The EU's regulations become de facto global standards because any large company that wants access to the European market has to comply. So even if you never work in Europe, the EU framework we're about to study will likely reach you. Let's trace the EU corporate reporting story from its start. The first piece was the Non-Financial Reporting Directive, the NFRD, Directive 2014-95 EU. It was the EU's first mandate requiring non-financial disclosure alongside the annual report. But its scope was fairly narrow. It applied only to large public interest entities, listed companies, banks, and insurers, with more than 500 employees. Within scope, it asked firms to disclose on environmental matters, social and employee matters, human rights, anti-corruption, and board diversity. The NFRD was a genuine first step, but it had well-known weaknesses, vague requirements, patchy comparability, and limited scope. And so it was eventually replaced and substantially expanded by its far more ambitious successor, the CSRD. That successor is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the CSRD, Directive 2022-2464, in force since January 2023. This is the centerpiece of the corporate reporting regime, and it changes the game in 4 ways. First, scope. It dramatically widens the net, potentially covering up to around 50,000 companies, large companies, listed small and medium-sized enterprises, the SMEs, and even some non-EU groups that do significant business in Europe. Second, standards. Firms must report against the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, the E-Ability Reporting Standards, the ESRS, and crucially on a double materiality basis. Remember both financial and impact. Third, assurance. It makes external assurance mandatory, starting with limited assurance. And fourth, digital tagging of the data so it can be read and compared by machines. The overarching aim is straightforward: to improve the quality, consistency, and comparability of sustainability reporting across Europe. Now, the CSRD's rollout is where things get genuinely messy, and it's worth understanding because it tells you something about the political mood. The original plan phased firms in over several years. Financial year 2024 for the large public interest entities, already covered by the old NFRD, reporting in 2025. Financial year 2025 for other large companies, and financial year 2026 companies, and financial year 2026 for listed SMEs. But then the political winds shifted amid growing worries about the sheer burden of reporting. In April 2025, a so-called Stop the Clock Directive, Directive 2025-794, postponed the second and third waves by 2 whole years. So now, large companies not previously under the NFRD report for financial year 2027, and listed SMEs for financial year 2028. And even that is subject to further changes from the omnibus reform, which we'll meet in the next video. The direction is still toward broad mandatory reporting. The pace has simply been eased. Let's look inside the CSRD at the standards themselves. The ESRS. These were adopted by the European Commission in 2023 in a first set and developed by EFRAG, the European Financial Reporting Advisory Group, acting as the Commission's technical advisor. The structure has 2 layers. First, 2 cross-cutting standards covering general principles and general disclosures, the rules that apply to everyone. Then a set of topical standards, organized by our 3 familiar pillars: environment, running from E1 to E5, social, from S1 to S4, and governance, which is G1. Now, a company doesn't report every single data point blindly. It runs a double materiality assessment to decide which topics and which data points within them are actually material to it, and reports those. One live issue. The ESRS were criticized as enormously detailed, so the omnibus reform aims to cut the number of data points down. More on that shortly. Now to the second pillar, and in some ways the conceptual heart of the whole EU system. The EU Taxonomy, Regulation 2020/852. The taxonomy tackles a deceptively simple question that the whole field had been dodging. What actually counts as environmentally sustainable? Without an agreed answer, the word green means whatever a marketing department wants it to mean. So the taxonomy is, at bottom, a classification system, a dictionary for environmentally sustainable economic activities. It's organized around 6 environmental objectives: climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, the sustainable use of water and marine resources, the transition to a circular economy, pollution prevention and control, and the protection and restoration of biodiversity and ecosystems. 6 objectives. That's the frame. The next slide shows how an activity actually qualifies. So how does an activity earn the label taxonomy aligned? It has to clear 3 hurdles at once. First, it must substantially contribute to at least one of those 6 environmental objectives. Second, it must do no significant harm to any of the other 5. This is the DNSH principle, do no significant harm, and it's what stops a firm from helping the climate while quietly wrecking biodiversity. And third, it must meet minimum social safeguards, respecting, for instance, the OECD and UN guidelines on human rights and labor. Only if all 3 tests pass is the activity aligned. Companies then report the share of their turnover, their capital expenditure, CapEx, and their operating expenditure, OpEx. That is taxonomy aligned. The purpose ultimately is twofold: to give everyone a common language for sustainability, and by doing so, to help direct capital toward genuinely green activities and curb greenwashing. It's an elegant idea, though, as you can imagine, applying those 3 tests to every activity in a complex business is anything but simple. Let's recap this first half of the EU framework. We saw the sheer scale of the regulatory wave, with Europe firmly in the lead. We traced the corporate reporting line from the narrow old NFRD to the sweeping CSRD, mandatory, double materiality, assured and digitally tagged, reporting against the detailed ESRS standards, though with a rollout that's been slowed by the stop-the-clock delay. And we unpacked the EU Taxonomy, 6 environmental objectives, and the 3-part test of substantial contribution, do no significant harm, and minimum social safeguards. Together, these define what to disclose and what counts as green. In the next video, we complete the picture with the other 2 pillars, the SFDR, which pushes this information into the financial markets through the Article 6, 8, and 9 categories, the CSRD, which adds a duty to act, the Omnibus Simplification Package, and the new ESMA rules on fund names. See you there, and that brings us to a close. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, hit subscribe so the next video reaches you too.